Vehicles that don't depreciate in the first 5 years usually represent amazing value for people who buy them brand new. I'm going to share a list of those top vehicles according to iSeeCars.com that literally hold their value for the first 5 years, lose little to no money at all, which are good for the new buyer, but devastating for the used car shopper who may as well just buy these new. So let's get into that list.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
And before we touch our list, right there, definitely want to subscribe to the channel. It's going to help me out if at all, if you're like me, that you actually like to save money, you care about reliability, and you want your car to last forever. Definitely subscribe. It'll definitely help you along. Some of the worst vehicles for depreciation, of course, brand new for the first 5 years, are electric vehicles and full-size SUVs. But the first vehicle that's literally going to hold almost all of its value in the first 5 years is this vehicle right here. And we're talking about a Honda Civic. And virtually every make and model of the Civic has always been a successful bet. Well, it's the young drivers that like to drive these because they're a sporty vehicle. You can get a CVT, continuously variable transmission, with many of these vehicles nowadays. The older Civics, you could also get a torque converter automatic transmission. There were different engine configurations, 2 liters naturally aspirated. You also get the 1.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine, absolutely little hot rod drivetrains, and you can even get a Type R, which is full of hot tech. You have fender flares and all kinds of performance parts, big brakes, manual gearbox, and you do get a pretty significant level of style detail on these, and that's why the basic Civic, which is a Honda product, has always done very well. It's always appealed to the young buyer, so whether it's new or used, it's always got a place in the marketplace, and it's always been a great seller. Front-wheel drive, different drivetrains, different 2-doors, 4-door configurations. There's lots for just about everybody. Now, they've also grown in proportions, so they're easier to live with. They're no longer that shrinky-dinky little car they once were. But in a 5-year time frame, the average Honda Civic only loses about 21.5% of its value, and that's equivalent to about $5,817 is gone. You still get almost 80% of the value back out of the vehicle. Sounds like a great deal for the new car buyer, but again, as a used car buyer, you're going to be paying top dollar for these cars. They're very sought after, they're fun to drive, they're sporty and attractive, and that's why you're going to pay premium dollar. You might as well just buy those cars new if you're looking for one of these on that marketplace. And I can totally agree, because we personally have owned 3 Honda Civics in our time. Our family has owned them, and at the end of the day, the value is always retained in a Honda Civic. The next vehicle on my list that you might as well just buy new, because you're probably going to overpay on the used car market, is this vehicle right here. And what we're talking about is the Wranglers and the Wrangler Unlimiteds, and any deviation of this particular generation of vehicle. We obviously have different drivetrains. They now have turbo 4-cylinder engines. You can get V6s, you can get plug-in hybrids with the E, you can get different setups with 2-doors, 4-doors, you can get painted tops, just plastic tops, usually carries the spare on the back, different types of finishing inside, leather interior, as well as just a generic type of fabric, or autos and manual gearboxes. Means it's a versatile vehicle that appeals to many people, and it's a youthful type buyer that usually gets into these, and unfortunately those people often think more with this than they do with this. And even though Jeeps have a bunch of problems, for example, you can get things like death wobble because the suspension gets too loose and parts need to be replaced, or you can get surging and hunting, throttle position sensor problems, or you can get leaking inside because water gets inside, the seals don't hold up all that well. You do get rust on body parts like this. You do get some wobbles and some noise, and the vehicle's wallowy at best. It does have issues with electrics, with the TIPM, the totally integrated power module, but forget about all those issues. People buy them anyway, and they're ultra popular. That's why you're likely going to overpay for a Jeep Wrangler or Wrangler Unlimited. And as a result, 20.8% of the value is gone in the first 5 years, meaning according to iSeeCars.com, about $8,951 is gone in 5 years, which isn't a bad loss considering you've had a ton of fun out of that. And I can attest, I personally owned a Wrangler many years ago. It was at the time, it was called a TJ with the 4-liter and a manual gearbox, and I loved it. The only reason I sold mine was because I had to start building the family. Mine was a 2-door, and I had small children, so it became very prohibitive to get people in and out of the vehicle. Otherwise, I'd probably still drive it. A lot of their older drivetrains are built for a lot of miles, so they're long lasting as well. And even though they're not the most reliable, they're generally a pretty sturdy setup. And for people that need a pickup truck, but they value reliability, and they know they generally can't find it so much in the big three, from the Dodge, the Ram, Stellantis products, Ford, aren't building vehicles are as long lasting as you're finding typically from the Toyota brand. Now what we have here is a Toyota Tundra, which is their full-size pickup truck. But the vehicle I'm speaking of specifically is the smaller brother of this, and it's the Tacoma, which is one of the best-selling as well as longest-lasting and least depreciating pickup trucks on the market, as well as vehicles in general. Now, generally what we look at Toyota now, well, this is the larger vehicle, of course, but it's still same principles apply. You do get the revised style headlights on these. They do give these beautiful military look wheels, or there's usually some form of great looking wheel assembly on that. All kinds of technology buried inside, including the latest big screens. Most of the trucks as well have the 4 doors, capacity to haul your family in there, and as well you do get a box just like the Tundra, like we see right here in the TRD Pro. You are able to get a small pickup box in the Tacoma. You also have a little tow hitch. The Tacoma is a real truck. It hauls, it loads, it pulls, it tows, it brings people around, and it does it all reliably. The value in owning a Tacoma, and even though the newest ones are now outfitted with a 2.4 liter turbo 4, and the jury's out yet whether those are reliable, the outgoing engines have always been a staple of reliability and Toyota's overall durability and long-lasting capability. And as a result, according to iSeeCars.com, 20.4% is all you're going to lose in about a 5-year time frame in a Toyota Tacoma, and about $8,359 is up in smoke. So while $8,000 seems like a bit of change, in the long reality, when you compare it to most of other competition, it does very well. And it's one of the smallest losers in a 5-year time frame. Meaning, again, if you want to buy this vehicle new, you're probably going to save a lot of money and you're going to keep a lot of that investment in your wallet, in your pocket. But if you're buying them used, don't bother. You might as well just go with a new one, because you're not saving a whole ton by buying one used. And in most cases, people mile them out. They could have a lot of miles on them. You might find them with 80, 100, 140,000 miles, and people are still asking the vast majority of the value because the brand has a reputation for long lasting, and as a result, you might as well just buy your Toyota Tacoma brand new. And the next vehicle in line is one of those, if you've ever been in a midlife crisis and you want to get your rocks off, even if you want to drive a car for 5 years and then say, just to say I did it, I've got the postcard. A Porsche is always known to be a vehicle that often holds up, particularly when you're dealing with their sport coupes. Here we have a 718 Cayman. This is basically a Boxster coupe, as you can see, essentially on the same chassis, shares the same drivetrains, same chassis, brake setup as the Boxster 718, but it's essentially a coupe. So you can have your more rigid chassis, you can have a more pure driving experience, and ultimately it definitely has those lines that look very, very unique and attractive, especially from a distance. Now you could literally own a Cayman like this for 5 years and only lose about 17.6% of its value, according to IC Cars, and $13,372 is gone in 5 years. And not only are these just driving the name, these are actually one of the best handling, most dynamically diverse sports cars that Porsche makes. Sure, it's not the Porsche 911, but at the end of the day, this drives every bit as good, and it carries a lot of the same amenities and styling themes. The 718 Cayman, this beautiful unit, does come with the big, beautiful new style headlights in these ones. Of course, you do get these big inlets all over for all kinds of cooling capacity. As you see in there, you've got cooling vents, naturally cycle around. You get these big flaring haunches here. Gorgeous wheels that Porsche always outfits in their cars, small low profile mirrors, small handles, and air inlets. These air inlets, they're there to get air to the engine as well as for additional cooling. Big cross drill rotors, and of course big calipers to clamp down. These cars are some of the best handling, driving, accelerating, and braking sports cars on the planet. But this is a true driver's car, and that's why people recognize that, and they're willing to pay a lot of money on the used car market, which is why if you're a used car buyer, I would rather just go buy a brand new one, because the used ones hold so much value. So the next one, if you're fortunate and lucky enough to actually be able to fund one of these new vehicles like this, we're talking about a Porsche 911. These are some of the best sports cars on the planet, and they hold the best value of virtually any sports car available at any time. There are anomalies, of course, Z06 Corvette, but those come and go in waves. This is a consistent depreciation that is extremely very, very low. The Porsche 911 is always a great car. It has the typical bug-eyed headlights, and it always has, other than during the 996 generation where it had more of the scrambled egg look. Of course, generally we have big set of cross-drilled rotors, red calipers on these. Yellow calipers mean you get the PCCB or the Porsche ceramic brakes. Big glass sunroof. This is a beautiful coupe. You can get this in turbos, cabrios, as well as Targas. Gorgeous vehicle. This is a 911 Carrera 4S. and you can get them in turbos, naturally aspirated, depends on the generation, automatics, PDKs, double clutch gearboxes, you name it, they've got a size that fits the bill. And as a result, because of their legendary racing heritage and performance attributes, these hold a phenomenal deal on the used car market. That's why I would almost always just buy one new if you can actually afford one. Because a Porsche 911 like this only loses about 9.3% of its value in 5 years, and that's about $18,094 according to iSeeCars.com. Allowing you to almost drive this for free in 5 years. If you happen to have this kind of funds available, definitely one of the best cars to own and buy as a new vehicle. But skip it on the used car market. Find something different because you're likely paying full beans for something that's already used. And with all of that said, right there, the most reliable vehicles you're going to find, whether it's cars, SUVs, sports cars, convertibles, you name it, you're gonna get that whole list. It's long, grab yourself some popcorn, sit down, you're gonna love it. Definitely wanna check out that video. Hope to see each and every one of you in the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.